Hi, I'm Dick Cavett, and as an actor, Christopher Reeve has, as you know, flown through the air in one film and kissed Michael Caine in another. Two dreams of every boy, I suppose, at some point in his life. He has stood up for the National Endowment for the Arts in front of Congress, not as an actor, but as himself, and fought to make this planet a better place at pro-environment rallies across the country. He's in a new film called Noise Is Off, and I have a story about that title, and he is here tonight with me as well. Otherwise, all of this that I've just said would have been rather pointless if I suddenly turned and welcomed Mayor Koch. Chris, welcome.
He's available.
Wait, he's not mayor anymore, is he?
He thinks he is.
I'm having one of my spells.
He's self-appointed mayor, and he always will be.
Yeah, you hear more from him now that he's not mayor.
Now he's a movie critic. That makes me quick in my boots.
Yeah, actually, I've missed, by my count, all of his movie reviews. How are they?
I don't know. I mean, he loves movies, which is the main thing. But he does, you know, he's an acerbic guy. He really wants to kind of, you know, he doesn't have to make nice with anybody. But I think that's what was good about him as mayor, too.
Can you remember every needle you ever got from a critic?
I have an encyclopedic memory of all the bad reviews. I'll just quote one at random.
Okay, just pick one from your...
I did a movie which has become, actually it's become a classic. People love this film. I mean, it's become an American institution. That's a film called Somewhere in Time, which is a romance I did back in 1979.
Certainly my favorite.
It bombed so badly that it left a crater on 47th Street. But
they got tape
a review.
up around
That's
the...
right, you know, police barrier, do not cross. But then Vincent Canby said in his review in the New York Times, and I quote, "One more movie like this, and it's back to the Cape forever. This movie does for screen romance what the Hindenburg did for dirigibles."
Oh,
and there was a little byline, said, "Christopher Reeve looks like a helium-filled canary. Thank you, and drive safe." You know, it's like, you know what I do with reviews? I used to go out to the store, and I'd go and buy one review and take it home and read it.
Yeah.
And if it was good, I'd go out and buy another one. Sort of like until I got to the bad reviews. Sometimes it was just one trip.
Oh, I see. You mean you couldn't get them all at once?
I couldn't get them all at once. You couldn't have that much either good news or bad news at once. I had to parcel it out.
You know, that rings a bell with me. I have a feeling I once, I think when a book came out, and I thought, I don't want to get two blows at once. Maybe, yeah, that's, gee, we're very much alike. And I empathized with you on the other thing, too, because it annoys me, A, that you get my movie parts, and B, that when you get a review like that, you do tend to remember it word for word, exact quote, nothing wrong. Then there's the old saying that if you start believing the good ones, you're in even better trouble than if you believe worse trouble. You believe the bad ones. The bad ones are infinitely more convincing somehow.
Also, I think that a critic has a better time writing a bad review because then it's just easier to be clever and witty and funny at somebody's expense. I mean, humor. I mean, this segues actually to Noise Is Off, as a matter of fact. But humor is so often cruel. I mean, we partly want to humiliate people.
Can be, because it is an effective weapon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed that when the guy slips on the banana peel, he's never walking down the street unsure of himself. It's always when he's walking down the street as though he's on top of the world. Yeah. And then he wipes out. And we seem to enjoy those misfortunes. And
do you ever find that when you drop, let's say, a heavy plate on that protruding bone just above the big toe, and you're alone, and the pain is excruciating, at that moment you think, now this would be a hilarious moment in a movie, and I'd be laughing.
Right.
And this isn't funny. I'm sorry. This just isn't funny at the time. Great when it happens to others, especially to a critic.
Right.
But fortunately, the movie business provides those critics who enjoy dumping on things plenty to dump on in our lifetime.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Would you agree that us elders folks remember a time when there were at least a lot more good movies per capita than there are now? It just seems you get stung every 2 out of 3 times.
I think what happens is there's a real, the old days of the studio system, it was run by people who actually liked movies.
That's right.
They were self-made men. They came up with very little education, but they loved movies and they loved artists, and they wanted to bring with them the great artists. There's this great exodus from Germany in the 30s of, you know, and then there was Faulkner writing there, and there was Fitzgerald writing, and the word meant something. Literature meant something. In fact, Broadway, I mean, was really kind of the Class A Broadway world and film was a poor relation. Actors went off to do a movie, well, which we didn't really talk about. Then I go back on Broadway and do my Macbeth or whatever. And I think what we have now is we've got the studios are run by guys with business degrees who are really only doing, we're pre-selling territories. Right. And that's how you get a movie. I've talked about this before, but you get a really interesting, original piece of modern literature like Bonfire of the Vanities, which they cast by pre-selling to an imagined audience. Well, Bruce Willis brings in this audience, Tom Hanks brings in this audience, Morgan Freeman brings in this audience, and they don't care anymore whether they're serving the author's intentions. And I think that really does a disservice to the audience who really doesn't care so much about stars. They want to see a story well told for their $7.
Has Tom Wolfe been heard from? I just haven't, if he was, I missed it. But the catastrophe of what they did.
I think he's hiding under a rock somewhere until the whole thing, it's not his fault.
Certainly not, no. Writers are shot upon in Hollywood, I hear, even though for decades people, Raymond Chandler have written, these guys with, the dollar signs in their eyes and the morals of a goat like to produce.
Well, I actually heard about an agent actually sitting in a meeting with a studio, and a writer had come, a huge bestseller, and they're going to talk about, they just bought the book. And the head of this studio said, with a writer sitting right there in the room, said, love the title, love part of the concept, and we'll take it from there. So the idea is they don't care, and here's this wonderful book. And I just think that the American public really is getting tired of that, and that Hollywood would do well to serve the literature, to serve the language, and let the people with the ideas who are writing. There's a lot of good books around there, and better movies could be made out of them.
And there actually was a time when there were scripts that were fun to read as scripts. I mean, you could almost listen to All About Eve, not to detract from it in any way.
But see, now they don't care.
You could listen to it almost on the radio and like as much because there's such a good written story there.
And the problem, I think, in that regard is MTV, because the audience now is used to watching things that are interesting enough of themselves but have no connecting tissue. So movies now, particularly the ones really aimed at a commercial audience, are just, we take events and string them together, but we forget about logic and character development and through line and spine and all those things that are traditionally the backbone of good scripts.